Hello, hello. Welcome back to Mentally a Badass. Today I have a special guest. Her name is Twinkle. And I'm very excited to interview today because it's been long waiting. We've been trying to find the right time to chat with each other, but just like always something just came up. So it took a bit to get here, but we're here. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Justin, for having me. And I think it's been really, really long time. And yes, I'm looking forward to
Yes.
for this particular podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we jump into it, and we're going to talk about meditation, can you tell my audience just like a couple of sentences, a little bit about yourself?
Of course. So I have been practicing and teaching. I've been practicing for more than almost 20 years. I still remember it's in 1999 that I started meditating. And it's 2024 that we're talking about. So I've been practicing meditation for way long. And I have been teaching for more than 18 years. And apart from that, it's my passion. And apart from that, I also teach and train yoga. So I'm a trained yoga teacher. I teach asanas, yoga, meditation. I'm a life coach and a meditation coach. It brings immense joy to be here and to talk about it because mental health is one of the most important factor in our life. It's become necessity rather than, practicing once in a while. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree with you on that because I'm really big on telling everyone that, mental health should be number one priority in everybody's life. Everybody. Because your brain is literally controls like your whole life. So if your brain's not doing well, then you're not doing well. So then you add on to people, so then they're not doing well, and then your whole life's a mess. And then just like everything just blows up. And so no, you totally like have a point. And so the greatest asset that we do have is our brain. And I can go on about that, like how to really keep our brain healthy. But meditation definitely, very important when it comes to calming the brain. So let's talk about, you did tell us a little bit of a background, but I want to know, around 1999, I think, believe you said you start. What made you like, okay, I want to dedicate my life to meditation? Like, what was that moment?
I'll be very honest here. I was forced into this
Oh, okay.
particular workshop by my aunt. I've always been a very happy-go-lucky person, but when I did this 4-day workshop, and it just changed my whole entire life because I just didn't feel that can what this is meditation. And,
Mhm.
we do have a lot of questions when it comes to meditation, what meditation is, but I'll tell you that later. A turning
Mhm.
point came into my life where, of course, we all go through our ups and downs. And the turning point was there where I was absolutely lost at one point of time. And though I
Mhm.
had learned meditation, but I was not practicing for a few years. And by 2001 is when I started practicing. And of course, then I started involving myself in training myself. So, through an organization, the Art of Living is where I am a trained teacher to teach. Most beautiful part when you asked me that, Gil, what is it that made you change? I mean, that you wanted to teach, and what changed that?
Mhm.
Later on, understood that when you are teaching meditation, how the transformation happens, and on those 4 days or a 6-day workshop, people who are so stressed, who are so emotionally drained, who are depressed, who are they don't know where to look out. And you
Mhm.
teach that and how those transformation happens, and then you bring that smile to them, and then you are giving them a tool the rest of the life become happy. I do believe meditation is nothing but a life jacket. It's a life jacket that you need to have, and it always needs to have. You can put it on and it's there. It's invisible life jacket that you're wearing all the time. That's what I feel most of the time.
That's so true. And as you were saying, it being a life jacket, I visualized that into my head. And of course, every day people, it's recommended, of course, to do, the meditation. I personally try my best. I literally have like it's hard for me to quiet my mind. So my next question for you, some people it's hard for them to focus, on meditation. So I do, hear from a lot of like self help podcasts and others such as like just start out with like 5 minutes. And so, do you recommend that? Is that correct?
I'll, I'll tell you a different way to look at this, all right? I'll ask you a couple of questions rather. So, tell
Yep.
me, what is it that is this moment right now? You think is in the moment? What is it that is in this present moment that we have?
What we have or how I feel.
Is it that it is a present moment that we have currently, right now, this
Well,
moment?
we're chatting, we have the podcast, we're communicating.
So the breath in this particular moment, right? Our breath is the only thing which is
Okay,
in
the
the moment.
breath. Okay. I get it.
The
Yeah, that makes
breath is
sense.
the
Yeah.
key. Breath is the key to everything. When do you not feel angry, or when do you not feel anxious? When do you not regret? When you are only in this moment. If you're not in this moment, then you're most of the time thinking about past, thinking about future. And past usually gives us
Mhm.
regret, and then future is where what we are anxious about. How do you get your mind in this moment? All about being in the present moment through breath.
True.
Breath is the key. Through breath
Huh.
is where you can actually bring your mind to the moment. If you are, for example, do you know, I mean, all know about flying kite? You know, in India, we fly kite, right?
Uh,
Now, and it has
yeah.
a thread, right? Now, through thread is where we maneuver the kite. If you think that your breath, the kite is your emotion, and the thread is the breath. So through breath, you can control your emotions. If your breath is in your control, and have control over your emotions. And emotions are nothing but a wavering, fleeting feelings of
Mm-hmm.
things that we are regretting, things that we are anxious about, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I consider breath as a life force, a prana. So if our life force is high, we have a higher life force, then we will always be in the moment, then we can be happy. And in
Yeah.
this moment you can actually direct things in your life. But if you're unhappy, if you're sad, if you're depressed, you're not able to say care of the situation. But if you're in the moment,
Yeah.
those circumstances and obstacles are there in your life, but you are in this moment and you're taking care, you can actually change a lot of things with a lot of confidence and clarity. Because through breath, confidence will come back because you're high on spirit, and clarity will come. Take certain decisions in our life. Yeah, meditation. It's what meditation is actually. So when you say a self-help or this 5 minutes of things will work, so for me, I can right now we make you go into a meditation just by telling you to focus on your breath, incoming and outgoing breath. You can do right now. Do it. Like if you are in this moment with me, your attention to your incoming and outgoing breath. You are doing it while talking to me, to be in this moment. Breath is the key to everything. Breath, and the key to keep the mind is effortlessness, and to body is effort, because with body you require effort, but with mind you require effortlessness. That's where you can go into deep into meditation. The meditation is not concentration actually. Meditation, result of meditation is concentration. While you're meditating, it's okay to have a lot of thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay to have different thoughts. You're not able to sit for 5 minutes. Absolutely okay, because when you're sitting with your eyes closed, when you're with your breath, what is happening is the thoughts are coming, and you have to just witness them as a clouds. If that
Mm-hmm.
happens, thoughts are going out. You're not indulging in the thoughts. Then once you're out of meditation, when concentration will happen. So people have this whole thing about concentrate, I can't sit because it's you have to concentrate. No, you don't have to concentrate. The result of meditation is concentration, and that is what focus it gets into that. So yeah.
I just learned a lot in these last like 5 minutes of what you were saying because one of my questions was the misconception, and you pretty much just like explained everything. I didn't even think about that at all, and how meditation is pretty much throughout the whole day. And what I wanted to say before is that as you're talking, and as I was like thinking about like, this, like the whole breath, and really, you know, making sure that I'm breathing properly, for example, I
Yes.
literally could I always like have anxiety when I like first start recording an episode and meeting people for the first time. Like I struggle with that. It's a little bit of social anxiety. And then when I was, doing the whole breath thing, I was like, wow, I actually feel calm right now. Like like it was just such a great feeling. And I was like, oh, like I never barely have moments of feeling calm just because I struggle a lot, with anxiety, my mental health. So, and stress. Stress is really, really hard in my life. Just, a lot going on. So, like right before we got on this podcast, like I was super stressed out about something work related, but 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 it's something where it's also I just try not to beat myself up over something, just because I used to always be like that. But and then today I another thing too that I try to work out with my breathing is when I was putting my dishes away, one of like my dishes just like fell onto the stove. And naturally you're just like first you get startled, and then you just kind of like normal like most people would be like, but then when it happened, I was like, and then I was like, okay, it happened. Because I feel like when people, like before, I mean, a lot of people do like if something falls or they trip or they just like, oh my God. And then like the rest of their day is just like, it's always one after one after one, one after the other. And then like your brain is just like focusing on all that, and you just make yourself anxious. And it's not fun. It's not a good time. So, I just want to just bring up that example that I didn't realize I was in a way doing meditation when I was making sure I don't like freak out with that plate. Because just the way it fell, like it chipped, and I was like, it was a nice plate, and it chipped, and it fell on my stove, and it just like, but it happens, right? So I just thought of that today, and
Very
I'm sorry.
interesting thing that you said about stress and how happens usually. I would like to ask in terms of what is stress when we use this word a lot is if we are not stressed, the environment has become such that in the air the stress is there because of the pollution and everything, right? But when
Mhm.
it comes to today involvement with people, events, things that evolves around us, right? What is stress? Stress is nothing but unable to accept the situation and people the way they are, because we have to look at them in a certain way. Moment people or an event, a situation has happened in a way where we have not expected out of it,
Yeah.
it happens. Why? Because it's not gone the way you wanted to. Like the plate fell down. Oh, but it should not have fallen, but it has. That's given a little stress. But that's okay. A plane has fallen down. It's really okay. So that's small things in our life, including these things, and that's what causes stress. Is our it's basically an inability to accept the situation, people the way it is. That's where the stress comes from. Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. That is such a great way of thinking, because as you were saying that, I was thinking about all the stresses in my life, and a lot of stresses that I do have is I feel like I was gonna tell my therapist today, but I might as well bring it up on the podcast. Lately, threads have been filled with a lot of like toxic threads, like a lot of like mean people and bullying and such. And sometimes I like see this stuff, and it just like makes me super angry. And I have this like problem where I have just a lot of anger, but also some of it kind of like stems from my childhood trauma. But it's like as you were saying, I have like a hard time accepting. So I didn't even think about that. Like there's some things in life that I do accept and I'm at peace with it. But I really just have to focus on, like, for example, if someone says something that's completely ignorant, I need to stop feeling like I have to reply. Like, I have to say something. I always feel like I have to say something, and it's just like it's not good for my mental health. And I know it's not good for my mental health, but my brain is just like, so that's like something I really need to truly work on. But so I guess there's like incorporating your skills of meditation to, back off on that and then block them. Just block them too, because someone even put a thread saying like, "Hey, if you guys see anything that's just toxic, just utilize the block button." And it's like, you know what? That is such. It's like it's the obvious, but like I needed to hear that. And it's true. It's like we can click block. We can block the people who are just spreading negativity and causing problems. So that's why I wanted to bring it up, because like those are like that's something what I personally struggle with. Do you have anything like in your life, because no one's perfect. So do you particularly struggle with something that triggers a stress that you're currently working on yourself?
When we say, are you working on yourself? I think working on oneself is every day, because every day something or the other keeps on happening. Me personally, if I talk about my experience, I have taught some more than, I don't remember, thousands of people and in my life, from the age group of 5 years till 70 years. It's my age group, yeah. And I completely connect with teenagers because I love teaching them. When I'm taking workshops, the teenagers, the kind of stress levels they go through is different from the adult. One, because just growing up, can have parental issues, can have
Hmm.
not accepting issues because of either they could be, they fall in the LGBTQ community, or or it could be a trauma where parents are not taking care of them well. So a lot of things happens, right? And of course, there is drugs, there is alcohol, there are a lot of other abuse and trauma that the one goes through. So I connect with these people. I connect with them so beautifully. And while I'm getting connected to them, I learn. For me, learning is every moment, because I don't know everything. Nobody knows everything. But when I'm talking to you today, I'm sure I'm learning something or the other while talking to you. I mean, I like the way you have just started off the podcast. And for me, it's a motivation. So that's how I get inspired day to day. While I'm talking to them, I'm learning all the time and I'm evolving myself all the time, being aware of, oh, I can learn this. If somebody is telling me something, I do reflect into it and see if the person is saying right or not, and whether I have to work on that because the person is getting hurt. If I'm saying something,
Hmm.
I'm very candid as a person. If I put it out in a way, in such a way that the other person not like it, and the other person is communicating to me, so I don't say, hey, that's not the way, but I do reflect that. So that's
Hmm.
where I do keep on reflecting, and I do keep on learning from different people all the time. People have come to me often out because I'm a life coach, I'm a meditation coach. So people do talk to you, right? They just went out things. And when you're listening, I do not react or, of course, it helps them, because when you're in a space, someone who's also a meditator, who's meditating for long, nothing changes. Without even saying
Hmm.
words, things changes. You feel good about. So that's how usually it happens. So me, people have vented out, people have spoken bad about me, people have done a lot of things. It doesn't bother me, if that's what you're asking. Because in a split second, it said, oh, I wonder why the person is saying that, because I know I'm not that. That is very important.
Hmm.
Knowing that you're not
Yeah.
that is very important. I do not like to react, because in reaction comes from anger. Anger comes from something which you're not able to accept. So there is no point, because I do not like to engage in these kind of conflicting reactions, because it leads nowhere. For me, all about, again, like I said, accepting, okay, somebody has said something about me, right? Take it
Yeah.
forward. That's really okay. And I'm a very compassionate person. I have a guru in my life. Because of him, I'm as compassionate. He's a role model for me. So I do take it from him. He, passionate towards people who gets angry or who says nasty things. But yeah. That's how I deal every day with different things and events around me and people around me rather.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was really, good advice for people who like have to deal with others who are talking either bad about them or dealing with trolls because like I can use the example of threads again. Like one time I asked a question and it was a little like controversial just because like it was a little bit of a touchy topic, but I also like know myself and know that the question that I'm asking is not meant to insult a certain group or anything like that. I just like to learn. So when I asked a particular like a certain question, some people answered it and some people like attacked me being like how dare you ask that question. But which is kind of like, and I shouldn't, like as you said, like I just kind of have to accept the people how they are, and I think I just have moments where I'm just like I think to myself, I'm like, how I know people can think like me, and I just have to accept that. But even when they don't think like me, there's some things that is just like I just ask the question, why are someone like attacking me, And before we got on today, I was just looking at threads, and one person just put on threads like, oh, threads used to be like people told me threads was a very nice community and people were kind, and I'm hearing people are being toxic. And then one person responded and was just like, oh, because there's people like you and this is why, like it was just kind of like a whole like paragraph. And then one person responded back saying like, breathe. And then I said I wanted to like say something because I'm just like was so angry the way that this person was treating this woman who was just literally just, she has a right to say whatever she wants on threads, and it wasn't even like, it was just it was very innocent. But and part of me would have been like, oh, like defending her because I hate seeing people being mistreated. That's one of my sorry, my biggest pet peeves. But I was like, you know what? Like, I don't need to do that. There's going to be a lot of that on threads where people are just being mean to others. I can't defend everybody, like, so that I'm just like in my head, I'm like, okay, I can't defend everybody. But then part of me was like, oh, I just want to say, so I was like, I always like to at least be nice to these people. And I was just like, breathe in, breathe out. Like, yeah. Even though I didn't have to respond to that either. Hey, it's a work in progress. I could have had a whole paragraph saying like defending this person, but I just had to breathe in, breathe out. It's baby steps, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's the way to go ahead, I guess. So
Yeah.
it's a very beautiful way to. One of our scriptures says
Mhm.
about being untouched things. So Bhagavad Gita, one saying which says "Aho Niranjano," which means that you have to be like a butter, right? Will come, whatever things will. What does butter actually melts away eventually? It melts away whatever is sticking on it, right? So eventually, if it is kept out, it just melts away. So you also have to be like that, completely untouched by the kind of words, by
Mhm.
the kind of things that people say. Now, how can one do that? Is very important. It's very easy to say these things. Over
Yeah.
the period of years, like I can tell you from my example, I used to be a very short-tempered person while I was very, very young,
Mhm.
and, to back answer a lot. And so for me, it used to be or that, like I really used to react. Over the period of years, when I've been meditating, automatically it has become very effortless, where I don't need to react. I mean, everything that you tell me doesn't touch me that the way it should. Even if you tell me a few bad things about things, it doesn't touch me because I am. So the point is to remain untouched. And how do you remain untouched? Meditation is the key, and meditation is can be
Mm.
done through a lot of breath work. Breath is like I'm repeating this because breath is the key to everything. There are certain rhythms in the nature, and if you are in aligned with the nature, your breath pattern, then everything becomes very still. Because once you become still inside, automatically everything outside becomes still. So it's all from inward to outward. Usually it's all about outward to inward. Like how is the out environment? That's how your inner environment becomes. But if your inner environment is still, is calm, then automatically your outer environment will also be that. So, depending upon how you are creating yourself, how you are evolving yourself, how you are working on yourself. So, when I say working on yourself, is
Mhm.
of course to become aware. But for me, it's always about dating. Meditation is the key. And meditation is a need of an hour, I feel. I think children should be learning meditation at a very early age because nowadays I'm teaching meditation at the age of 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. 8 years onwards, if
Mhm.
children starts meditating, trust me, the kind of PhD, what lot of other traumas that they might come through or going through or whatever they are seeing or observing, all reduce and eventually they become much better as a person. They are able to deal a lot of things in a most beautiful manner. I always suggest, when I have a teenager or a child coming to in my workshop, always eventually ask parent that do you meditate? And they say few of them meditate, it's great, but if few of them don't meditate, I would say that why not? Because children at that age, they are like sponge.
Yeah.
Whatever that you say, they will absorb. You can't blame them by
Mm.
saying that hey, you are the person who was always angry, you have this hatred, you have this. But it's so important for the adult to meditate and make themselves calm because it's all about vibration. Like you and me are talking, it's again a vibration. Children are so young, they don't have the kind of memory and impressions like we have because we have gone through so much of experiences. They are so young, they don't have that kind of impressions and experiences, right? So when the way we talk, the way we it is very important because all that thing is getting absorbed by the child or the teenager. So it's important to meditate. In every household, if each one of us meditate, there would be an amazing harmony all across. Because even if one person meditates, whole environment becomes very, very peaceful. Automatically, the other person starts doing it. So it's like walking the talk. Like if you really want somebody to meditate, the first thing is that you should meditate. I would not have never been in this podcast if I would not have been a meditator. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I do not like to talk about what I don't do. So it's important to someone to meditate until unless you are doing it. So of course, you want for everyone, so you would want to say, but so that's what it's important.
Yeah, and I really, really love how you brought up with children having, like, being a sponge. And I always, always say that because sometimes, like, if I'm around children and then, like, parents act a certain way, I don't say anything to them just because one, like, I'm not a parent, so, like, I just don't feel like I'm really in
Sure.
that position. Yeah, even though it's like it's not much of a parenting tip, it's more of just a psychology tip. And also I have a degree in psychology and I've studied child development, so like but still, I don't like to take that risk. So, but part of me in my head is just like, man, I know they probably don't know, but like, let's say if they're fighting in front of their kid or they're cursing in front of their kid, like they pick all of that up. And if they don't have emotional regulation, how can you expect your kids to have emotional regulation? And one question I want to ask you is some kids are more angry than other kids. So do you feel that it can be partially genetic? Some could just be more angry than others, or do you think it came from seeing like a parent that's angry? Let's say if they're like an infant or 1 years old, even though people think that these little babies don't understand anything. Like, do you think it could correlate with that, or like I want to hear your opinion on that?
Much more deeper than what we think. It is so external, you know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
let me go one step little before even the child is born. When it is in the womb of a
Okay.
mother, when it is in the womb of
Mhm.
mother, what is mother doing? Are you
Yeah.
taking care of your own mental health? Or someone
Mhm.
close to me who
Mhm.
where the mother didn't want that child to come out. She was depressed
Oh.
in that time.
Oh.
So when the child
Mhm.
was born, age of 4 or 5, you tell me who will get depressed? They don't even know what depression is. eventually at the age of 8 and 9, the child knew that she was depressed, he was depressed, that
Mhm.
depression also comes from the mother. Understand what I'm telling you? It's
Yeah, absolutely.
that's it. So you can imagine, you are asking me the question of whether a child, if about one child being angrier than other. So it's much more deeper than that. We what we think.
Yeah.
It's really a mother's responsibility when you're bearing a child. How good can you think of about your own self also and be happy about what you have? Because you are bearing something which is live. Today, if we are seeing, if we
Mhm.
want to have food also, which we are so thinking the best thing that we can, and so because it goes into our body, here you have something live within your body, and you are what I mean. So the so many things that it's
Yeah.
everything is so connected. It's very important from the day child is incepted in the womb of a mother, they are thinking. And then when you bear a child, and then everything else starts happening. Got my answer right?
That answer. Oh, absolutely. And I totally love that answer. And you're absolutely correct that it doesn't just start when the baby comes out. Like it starts like when the baby's like in there, and doctors are always, which is very important, of course, like what you eat and make sure you don't do like, obviously don't drink alcohol, don't smoke, to protect the baby and such. But I really like what you said because no one really talks about mothers, like soon to be mothers, to really protect your mental health during that state, because it's true, like if you are stressed, you're passing that on and it puts stress onto the baby. I've known that, like that part for like a while, but like, it'd be really interesting, how they have like classes, like parent classes and such. They should have like I guess like a meditation or like mental health class for like soon to be mothers. Like, wouldn't that be cool?
It's beautiful. There is this beautiful in so I don't know, but I must tell you this, that one, being Indian, I love my culture and I love the scriptures which are there, right? There and in
Hmm.
Sanskrit, there is this very beautiful called Garbha Sanskar. Garbha is when the mother is pregnant. The Sanskara means the impressions, right? So the impressions that when the mother is pregnant, when you listen to
Hmm.
those, what they are talking about it, then you are automatically giving those impressions to your child while you are listening. And those chants are beautiful because it talks
Hmm.
about how the child should be, telling the child that you are very beautiful, you're very happy, going to be amazing. So I'm just giving you very simple
Hmm.
words, but there is much more deeper to it. But that is what is all
Yeah.
about. So it's very beautiful. It's called Garb Sanskar. Yes, if everybody listens to something like this, or even listens to something, or even they do Om chanting, some kind of chanting, or some kind of meditation, they do, I think it
Hmm.
can really, really help
Yeah.
just their mental health, but also the child which is being born. Very, very important.
Yeah, I watched this show called Criminal Minds, and there was an episode where so they're a behavioral analyst, so naturally they see a lot of dark stuff just because they're the FBI, right? And there was this one woman who just became pregnant, and then this other woman gave her advice and said like, "Oh, I like to play like happy music or relaxing music to like my baby because just to get away from hearing all of the baby's listening. They want to be, you don't want them to hear, oh yeah, this person chopped up this person and like this, you know what I mean? Like it's not good. And it's actually like, so it was interesting, like that piece of advice. And that person is so right. It's like, so they don't, I think that, I don't know if they would do it like during the meetings, but it makes sense. Like you don't want your baby hearing that and having that kind of stress. And so like I just thought of that, but yeah, no, you totally have a point, and I really am like learning so much from you today. Like I also just like feel a lot better than what I did like before I got in this on this episode today. What advice would you give to mental health professionals who are considering incorporating meditation into their practice?
They're doing a great job there. I don't think so. I need to give any advice to them. It's just that the only thing that I can say is the key to everything.
Hmm.
And pranayamas, which can help, and breathing techniques, and certain physical activity. Yoga asanas is very, very important because once your body does a certain asana, yoga is nothing but the union of body, breath, and mind. So once the asana is done, then they can sit into meditation because not one can't just sit and do meditation. Has to do certain kind of physical activity, and when you sit, then you are able to meditate better. So of
Yeah,
course, I'm sure each one of them who are meditation practitioner or teachers, I'm sure they know what they're doing. Yes, breath is the
yeah.
key. Breath is the tool to everything. What
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I feel like that piece of advice is just like the best advice and definitely the primary. There was actually a question I had in my mind like before, but now I remember it, and it's kind of backing up a little bit. So, okay, this is kind of like more of a society thing. So, obviously, there's stuff that goes on in the world that's very dark and not great, and like I try to always like, do the right thing, support like human rights and everything like that. But then there's moments where there's like constant people sharing like every single day on their story. And then after a while, I'm just like, I try not to be on social media because it's like I can't constantly see the negativity. Like I know it's important, but I just don't want to be hearing that this person got blowed up or these children got killed and such. And then also I just like I guess I'm just not a person to just be constantly on about it. And then sometimes people are thinking that like for example, like if I don't say anything on social media, right? Then people who are really, I guess, like I don't know what they're called, but they look down at those people. Like there's like a huge thing with if like a big influencer doesn't share what's going on like in this the people I'm really trying to word this correctly. But I think my point is I do that to protect my peace, but it's like, how do I handle being looked down on and people thinking like, well, if I am not constantly sharing or doing this, and it's like I'm a horrible person. So I guess my question is like, have you ever been in that position like me or
I
kind
will
of
tell you. First, you ask me the question. I know where you're coming at. Right?
okay, cool.
You would first of all, there is one very important part is being into on a social media, being an influencer. Of course, you need to tell the right thing. In
Mhm.
your mind, you need to know what you are doing and for what you are doing. First of all, you are
Yeah.
doing things for better. You want to bring
Mhm.
out better things to people, right? Like you said, I love that
Yeah.
what how you're mentally badass. I mean, but you are taking care in terms of the mental health, and you're bringing out people
Yeah.
and just giving out the best information to help people. You don't
Mhm.
like. Let me tell you a small example of mine. I stopped reading newspapers since long time. Stopped getting newspaper into my house. I had newspaper that time. There was so much of
Mhm.
negativity in terms of the news that I didn't want to read. Again,
Yeah.
even in social media now, whenever because so much is happening, it kills. It actually saddens you that how it is. But at times, I do share some stories that hey, this is really saddening that this is what is happening. For
Mhm.
me, what am I doing? Important for me. What am I doing? Okay, I am going to help people level. I start with schools because children are important. Because if children are
Yeah.
not taught that what is right and what is wrong, whether a good touch, bad touch, you should respect women, these are the things which should not be done. So, if these things are being taught at the early age, and when certain workshops are being conducted in schools, then of course your child is going to be better because here we are talking about future. Currently, whatever is happening is there. We are at a
Mhm.
stage where we can't just say anything and everything. We can't change that what has happened, but definitely we can
Yeah.
influence people for better. And that
Yeah.
can only
Mhm.
happen space or the way your intention is. I would like things to be better for people. So how can I change? Okay, I'm going to go there and I'm going to teach meditation because I'm good at that. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be
Yeah.
there for people who need help. I know with that I can transform. Yeah, transformation can happen. So that's the only thing that you can do. Yeah,
Huh?
no other way that you can.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's
I love your answer. Love that piece of advice because I can't tell you how many times that I see people just every single day just sharing all the bad stuff that's going on, just sharing, and then pretty much just ranting, ranting, like, oh, so angry about this, angry about that, like, we not need to do better, blah, 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 right? But you're right. It's not, if anything, it just frustrates me. It's because, like, I know, like, what goes on in this world, like, is upsetting. Like, at the end of the day, there's always gonna be something bad in this world, always. So there's no point of just constantly just sharing it. It's like, what can we do to, like, avoid? I don't know. I guess, like, prevent it. That's the word, prevent.
can you do
Prevent
to
it.
change. What can you do to help? Nothing else. Individual, one can think,
Yes.
how can I help? How can, and the help does not need to go across the world. The help can be in your city, in your surrounding, next door. It could be anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
wherever, whoever it is. So that is one small step that each one of us can take. So for me, if there are my friends who are going through a certain thing, I am there to help them. Can I help? What can I do? You
Absolutely.
stretch your hand and see what can. It might be uncomfortable at times, but it's really, really okay. Then why are you here? What is your purpose? So
Yeah. I truly think that, like, this is how I think about it. It's like the first person you have to help is yourself. Like, you start there, because if you're struggling, you can't hand out a helping hand. And I think with some people who are, have a good heart and are good people, they forget about that part. They just give to everybody even though they're struggling, and they end up, like, screwing themselves. I don't know how to nice way of saying it. So yeah, so that's where I'm just like, when you're helping yourself, and let's say, like, people can see me as, like, oh, you should be doing this, and on, like, a bigger scale, not just like, oh, obviously if a friend's truly, like, not in danger, but like, for example, like, I've had friends who would call me if they feel like offing themselves, right? So right away, I'm not gonna say, "Oh no, let me work on myself." I'm gonna drive over to them, make sure they don't do it. So in that case, obviously, it's a little bit different. So in a scenario, if it's like an emergency, then obviously I'm gonna kind of skip that part and go over and make sure that they don't do that and be there for my friend. But I guess it's more of just like, when it's more like mild, I guess, what they're struggling with, or if there's other options, like, if someone is, let's say, can't pay rent or whatever, right? And instead of, like, if they have an option to move home with their parents, then let them. Well, I'd rather them do that. And then it's like, if I'm struggling to pay my rent, or if, like, my house is not good, to just take in somebody. So, like, my point is, like, if someone has options, then I focus on myself. But if someone's, like, in an emergency, then obviously, like, I just that's when I really just, like, okay, like, I need to, because last thing I need, of course, you don't want that happening, and that's very, very serious. But yeah, it's happened to me more than once. But I mean, I'm happy that people feel, that they can call me, and they know that I'm willing to just, like, I've driven to a friend's house at, like, 2 in the morning. Like, I've done, like, my friend was struggling, and we did, like, a whole, like, mental health day together. I made her feel better. At one point, I was like, my friend from a different state. I was about to get on a plane. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't care how much it cost. I'm like, if you need me, I'll be there tomorrow. So yeah. And then it's just like knowing, like, you just know yourself, and you know that you're a good person, and you know that if someone is truly, truly, truly in danger, that then it's like, I will be there, obviously. That's, like, my only exception. You know what I mean? But besides that, like, I focus on myself. And then if I can, like, just everything in my life, like my mental health, my financial, like, career, whatever, especially the financial part. Like I see people who are struggling right now and they have GoFundMe's going, and I'm able to at least give a little bit. And but like if I'm doing extremely well financially, honestly, if I was like making a lot of money and I had a lot of extra cash flow, I would just like pay for whatever they need, like out of the good of my heart, just because. But obviously, I can't do that right now. Like, but I'm trying to think of where I was getting to. But I think what you're saying, it's like definitely you have to work with within first and who is in your circle versus like helping someone the completely other side of the world.
Tell you
And
one more
so
thing
that, I
about
believe that's
you.
what you're getting to.
So I'll tell you one more thing is
Okay.
you are in a space when your inner self is centered, your inner self is still, you are always in a mode necessary to reach out and tell people, but you are in the available space there. You don't need to say it. You will attract people
Hmm.
who need help. And it's not just going to be your friends, people from wherever who will need, they will just come to you. You don't even need to look out for them. That's what my experience is.
Yeah.
And that's how it happens. And that's how you can be there.
Yeah.
Not just it's not just a small circle I'm talking about. The circle has to be bigger. It's not
Hmm.
just 10 people I'm talking
Yeah.
about. I'm talking about people who can be across the world. Like during COVID time, I had a great time because I taught thousands of people online free meditation and yoga. It was like
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
so, and I had just, and it was so helpful for so many people. So that became a medium for me to teach. And then you saw that, oh, they, and then when they tell you that they felt so much better, that so then I mean I think it's great to be there for people during times when in need and when they do not
Yeah.
know what to do. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, because people from all across the world were there, all across
Yeah.
India were there. So it was nice. It was, that's where I'm saying
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
need to encompass people, not just your friends, but people around you, and just
Hmm.
be there, not to tell. It's
Yeah.
just there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that I was thinking in a different way. I think I was thinking of more of people getting blown up in different countries. Like that's kind of what I was saying. Like I can't really like help those people. Like that's what I was saying. But yeah, no, I completely agree. Like I mean, I help people from all over the world myself. I mean, with my
Like you and me
podcast, with
are
my
talking to each
Instagram,
other.
I've had people, yeah, had people reach out into like my DMs and like ask for advice or for help. Of course, I read it first just to make sure it's not an emergency. But if it's not, I have to see like where my head is so I can give them the best advice. So that was kind of like more of what I was saying. Like if it's not an emergency, I have to make sure that my head is in the right space so I can give them the best response to help them. So that was essentially kind of what I was saying. Yeah. Yeah. Well, honestly, we had a lot of really good conversation. I feel like personally, I'll probably listen to this podcast 5 times because it's so good. And I just feel like you gave such amazing advice where it's something I want to incorporate in my life. And the best way to do that is to always kind of keep reminding yourself and with things to eventually keep sticking into your brain where it just becomes the norm. So I really truly appreciate it, and of course obviously the people who are listening to this as well are going to receive the same benefits. I just want to say thank you and really appreciate you coming on here today.
Cute, Hassan. I think you were amazing, and thank you for having me. So it was lovely. It was lovely
Yeah,
talking and chatting with
absolutely.
you. It was lovely.
I truly loved it. I love how it was like a two-way conversation. I'm not really used to people like the interviewer asking me questions, so it was definitely awesome like how conversational it was.
It was nice.
Okay, so I just want to say thank you to the people who are listening and stay tuned for next week's episode.